Imagine you've just, launched the perfect consumer product.
Right, the absolute dream scenario for any founder.
Exactly. You poured your heart and soul into the design, and you're dumping thousands of dollars into highly targeted Instagram ads every single week.
Oh, and obsessing over those conversion rates on your website, I bet.
Oh, constantly. You are just refreshing the Shopify dashboard all day. And you're convinced you're playing the modern business game perfectly.
Because that's what we're all taught to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. But you are completely ignoring the one massive physical cheat code that could, well, multiply your sales practically overnight.
And we are talking about something people usually write off completely.
Right. Today, we are taking a deep dive into why the supposedly dead world of big box retail might actually be your fastest ticket to scaling.
Which is so counterintuitive because the prevailing wisdom for, at least the last 10 years has been that brick and mortar is just a relic.
Yeah, dinosaur.
Totally. If you launch a brand today, the default assumption is that you go direct to consumer or DTC. Right.
Maybe you set up an Amazon storefront and you just let the algorithm figure out the rest. But if you look closely at the mechanics of retail growth, that narrative is incredibly limiting.
Which is why we're pulling apart some really fascinating insights today. We have a great source for this deep dive, drawing heavily on a strategic framework laid out by Johann Jacob.
And he really knows his stuff.
No, absolutely. He runs Retailbound, which is a consultancy that has helped scale brands into over 150 major retailers across the US and Canada.
That's a massive footprint.
It really is, and he argues in this article that partnering with massive retail chains, we were talking, Target, Walmart, Best Buy, Costco, is actually a totally transformative growth strategy.
It's not just about selling a few more units on a physical shelf.
Right. It completely rewrites a brand's operational DNA.
It really does. It forces a fundamental rethinking of how you view trust and scale and even your logistics. Because transitioning a brand from a digital-only presence into physical retail, well, it's a massive leap.
I like to think about it like an indie band. Oh, I like that. How so?
So operating as a purely BTC brand is a lot like an indie band playing like local sweaty dive bars,
Yeah, you're loading your own gear, doing everything yourself.
Exactly. You're hustling, you are selling your own merch out of the trunk of your car, and you keep all the door money, which is great.
Right, the margins are technically yours.
But moving into big box retail, that is like suddenly headlining a massive stadium tour.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. The stakes change entirely, the size of the audience is completely different, and most importantly, you're suddenly relying on this gigantic infrastructure that you did not build yourself.
The stadium tour analogy holds up incredibly well when you break down the actual mechanics of it.
Yeah.
You're stepping onto a stage built by someone else.
Yeah.
You're leveraging their promoters, and you're performing for an audience that is already in the building, just waiting to be entertained.
And there's always a but. Before you can sell millions of units in that stadium, you have to convince that massive audience to actually trust you.
Which brings us to the first major hurdle for any new brand: visibility and the psychology of shelf space.
Yeah, let's get into the psychology of it, because Johann Jacob points out that getting your product onto the shelves of a major retailer instantly elevates your brand.
Because these places attract literally millions of shoppers every single month.
Right. But I have to stop and ask here, just playing devil's advocate, if you're a founder listening to this and you have some venture capital or just a really decent marketing budget,
Sure.
couldn't you just buy a massive amount of digital ads? Like, I could pay TikTok or Meta to put my product in front of 10 million people by tomorrow morning.
You absolutely could.
So why on earth would I jump through the months of corporate hoops and all the red tape just to get onto a physical shelf at Target for visibility?
It's a great question, but it's because digital visibility and physical trust are two entirely different currencies.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, in the digital space, consumers have developed this intense banner blindness, and frankly, just a deep skepticism overall.
Oh, for sure. Every other post is an ad now.
Right. Anyone with a credit card and a Wi-Fi connection can spin up a Shopify store and run an ad in 20 minutes. There is literally zero barrier to entry.
That's very true.
But physical shelf space, that is finite real estate. It is fiercely, fiercely competitive.
So getting there actually means something.
Exactly. When a customer walks into a major retailer, they carry a pre-existing, deeply ingrained relationship of trust with that specific store.
They inherently trust the curation. Like if they're walking the aisles of Costco, they already believe Costco has their back on quality and price.
And that creates a psychological phenomenon known as the halo effect.
The halo effect, I love that term.
It's powerful. When a consumer sees your previously unknown products sitting on a shelf directly next to, established legacy national brands.
Like sitting right next to Sony or Apple.
Yes. A psychological transfer of credibility happens in a fraction of a second. The consumer implicitly understands that your brand had to survive a rigorous vetting process.
Oh, like quality control, supply chain audits, all that boring stuff.
Exactly. They know you had to meet strict performance standards just to be allowed inside the building.
It's like the ultimate stamp of approval. It's the retailer silently telling the consumer, hey, we put our reputation on the line to stock this.
And that implicit endorsement converts skeptical shoppers in a way that digital ads fundamentally struggle to replicate.
That makes a ton of sense.
I mean, think about your own shopping habits. If you see a completely unknown brand of electronics in an Instagram ad, you might assume it's cheap, drop-shipped junk.
Oh, 100%. I scroll right past it.
But if you see that exact same unknown brand sitting on a beautiful end cap display at Best Buy, you assume it's a legitimate, high-quality product.
Right, because Best Buy wouldn't risk their shelf space on garbage.
Precisely. When customers trust where they buy, they dramatically lower their guard regarding what they buy.
Wow. You just cannot buy that specific flavor of instant credibility with digital ad spend. It invisibly lowers your customer acquisition costs because the store is doing the convincing for you.
Exactly.
But okay, securing that trust and that shelf space introduces a terrifying new problem, I would imagine.
Oh, a massive problem. Scale.
Right. Let's say you get the big yes from a buyer at Walmart. You suddenly need to supply thousands of stores. If you're a founder who has spent the last 2 years boxing up orders in your literal garage.
Which is how most of them start.
Yeah. How do you deliver at that massive scale without completely breaking your company's back?
Well, this is where the underlying mechanics of major retail really start to shine. And it's a massive advantage that pure e-commerce players often completely overlook.
Okay, let's dig into this logistics side.
It really comes down to leveraging an established, highly optimized distribution channel rather than trying to build your own from scratch.
So going back to our stadium tour analogy, this is where you stop trying to drive the tour bus yourself and you hand the keys over to the venue's professional roadies.
That is exactly it. You are essentially renting the retailer's massive supply chain.
Because building your own is a nightmare.
Right. It is an absolute operational nightmare. Building a proprietary distribution network drains capital, it consumes thousands of hours, and it requires a highly specific type of logistical expertise.
Yeah, I mean, you have to secure warehouse space, negotiate complex freight shipping rates across all these different zones.
Not to mention managing an army of fulfillment staff and handling the inevitable chaos of lost packages and returns.
Which is the least sexy part of running a business.
Truly. And for a product innovator, it's a massive distraction from actually building a better product.
It's where a lot of growing brands just bleed cash trying to figure out shipping.
Exactly. Major retailers, however, have spent decades and billions of dollars perfecting these exact systems.
So you just piggyback on it.
You do. When a brand partners with them, they tap directly into that infrastructure. You just ship your product in bulk to a few centralized distribution centers, and the retailer takes over from there.
So they handle the micro-distribution to individual stores.
Yes. And the tangible benefits here are profound. Your time to shelf accelerates, your internal warehousing costs plummet, and your supply chain operations become streamlined.
To the point where a tiny team can manage a national footprint. That is wild.
It really is. You shed all of that operational drag.
And by offloading the logistics, you free up your capital and your mental bandwidth. Which kind of begs the question, what do you actually do with all that extra time and money?
Right, because the work isn't done just because it's on the shelf.
Exactly. You have to get the product off the shelf now that it's sitting there.
Well, you deploy those freed up resources into innovation and core marketing. And surprisingly, the retailer actually functions as a massive amplifier for that marketing effort, too.
Oh, really? How so?
Reaching a true national audience independently usually requires a staggering advertising budget. But large retailers offer internal marketing initiatives that vendors can just plug right into.
Johann Jacob lists some really specific perks here in the article that kind of blow standard digital marketing out of the water.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about guaranteed in-store promotions, securing those coveted end cap placements, where your product is featured at the end of the aisle facing the main walkway.
That is prime real estate.
Plus being included in the retailer's massive email blasts and utilizing their retail media networks.
Yes, those retail media networks are particularly fascinating. They represent a massive shift in how advertising dollars are spent today.
Okay, walk us through how those actually work mechanically. What does a retail media network look like to the average shopper?
Think of a retail media network as essentially the retailer acting as their own advertising platform.
Okay.
When you go to a site like, say, Walmart.com or the Target app and you search for a blender, the first few results are often sponsored by specific brands.
Right, like Amazon does.
Exactly like that. But it also extends into the physical store. Think about digital screens in the electronics aisle or audio ads playing over the store speakers.
Oh, wow. So instead of advertising to someone who is just mindlessly scrolling social media on their couch, you're advertising to them when they literally have their wallet in their hand inside the store.
The intent to purchase is exponentially higher. You are reaching the consumer at the precise point of sale.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. The conversion rates on retail media networks often dwarf traditional digital advertising because the friction between seeing the ad and buying the product is essentially zero.
Because the product is right there in front of them.
Right. It is a highly efficient way to amplify your brand, using the retailer's own megaphone in a way that would be totally cost prohibitive to try and replicate on the open internet.
It's brilliant. You are letting the giant do all the heavy lifting, but of course, renting this massive infrastructure. The warehouses, the trucks, the shelf space of the media networks. It's not a charity.
No, it definitely is not.
The major retailers absolutely demand their cut. So we need to pivot and look at the actual math of this arrangement, which brings up the massive debate between volume and margins.
Yes, the financial architecture of wholesale retail is usually where growing DTC brands hesitate the most. It requires unlearning some deeply ingrained habits about profitability.
Because if you look at modern business advice, the entire battle cry for the last 10 years has been cut out the middleman.
Right. Go direct.
The dream is to sell direct, so you can keep 100% of the profit margin. So let me push back here on behalf of every bootstrap founder listening right now.
Go for it.
Aren't we just voluntarily handing our hard-earned margins over to a massive corporate giant? Like, why would I give up 40 or 50% of my margin just to sit on a physical shelf?
It is a completely valid fear. It really is. But it stems from a misunderstanding of how unit economics change at scale.
Okay, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, yes, the retailer takes a significant margin. The raw percentage of profit you keep per individual unit will absolutely be lower than a sale on your own website.
Which hurts to think about.
It does. However, the economic mechanism of unit cost reduction completely flips the math in your favor.
Break down that mechanism for us. How does giving up margin actually lead to making more money?
It's all about volume. Major retailers move unfathomable amounts of product. When you sign a vendor agreement, you aren't just selling a few boxes, you are receiving massive, sustained purchase orders, or POs.
Right.
Let's say a retailer orders 100,000 units of your product for a nationwide rollout. You take that massive PO to your manufacturing factory.
The factories love volume.
They love it. Because your production volume has skyrocketed, your factory can optimize their own assembly lines. They can buy materials in bulk and run more efficiently.
Which makes everything cheaper to produce.
Exactly. Consequently, your manufacturing cost per unit plummets. But the leverage doesn't stop there.
How so? Where else is there leverage?
You now have the power to strong-arm your raw material suppliers. If you suddenly need 10 times the amount of aluminum or plastic, you can negotiate significantly better rates on those raw commodities.
Oh, I see.
So your cost of goods sold, your COGS, drops dramatically across the board.
So even though Target or Walmart is taking a giant slice of the pie, the cost to actually bake the pie has dropped through the floor.
Perfectly said. And when you factor in the operational savings we discussed earlier, you aren't paying individual FedEx shipping fees for every customer.
Right.
You aren't paying for massive warehouse space. And the retailer is absorbing a huge portion of the inventory risk. When you add all that up, your overall gross profit dollars explode.
The percentage margin might shrink, but the actual cash in the bank grows exponentially.
Exactly. Keeping 100% of a tiny pie is worth less than keeping 60% of a massive pie.
This goes perfectly back to our stadium tour analogy. It's the classic ticket split dilemma.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You can keep 100% of the door money at a 50-person dive bar and, maybe walk away with a few $100. Or you can give Ticketmaster and the stadium venue a massive 40% cut of a 50,000-seat arena.
The percentage you keep is technically worse.
But the actual dollar amount completely changes your life.
That's it exactly. The sheer volume completely offsets the deductions. And to put the scale of that volume into perspective, the data shows that for many brands, major retail partners can sell more units in a single month than a brand's independent e-commerce channel sell in an entire quarter.
Wow. 1 month outpacing 3 months of independent hustle.
It's staggering.
When you internalize that kind of velocity, you realize that clinging to 100% of a tiny e-commerce margin is actually stunting your growth. It completely alters the trajectory of a company.
Absolutely.
But, the exchange between a brand and a giant retailer isn't just about moving physical boxes and splitting cash.
Yeah.
There is an exchange of something that is arguably just as valuable long-term.
And that is information.
Yes, information.
This is perhaps the most underappreciated mechanism of the entire retail partnership. Big retail provides an incredibly potent, real-world feedback loop.
The insights from Retailbound emphasize this. They point out that these big box stores collect staggeringly robust data.
Oh, mountains of it.
They track macro shopper behavior, buying patterns, raw product performance, deep demographic insights. And the best part is that many of these major retailers actually share this data back with their vendors through dedicated portals.
Which is a goldmine. It empowers brands to make strategic pivots that simply aren't possible based solely on digital data.
But wait, let me push back again here. How does this physical retail data actually beat e-commerce analytics?
Well,
Because online, we have laser precision tools. Like a founder can look at their Shopify dashboard and know exactly when someone clicks a link, how many seconds they hover over a product image, and the exact millisecond they abandon a digital cart. Doesn't physical retail data feel a bit, blurry and archaic compared to that?
I get why you'd think that. Digital metrics are fantastic for micro-optimizations. They tell you about a highly specific, solitary digital journey. But they exist in a vacuum.
What do you mean by vacuum?
Well, a digital cart abandonment might happen because your shipping fee was too high, sure. Or it might happen because the user got a text message and just closed their browser. You don't really know the context.
That's a really good point.
Physical retail data, however, provides a massive real-world cross-section of consumer behavior in a highly competitive environment.
Paint a picture of what that real-world data actually reveals that digital misses.
Let's talk about packaging and shelf presence. If you sell purely online, your product is usually photographed on a pristine white background, right?
Yeah, it looks beautiful and clean.
It does. But when that same product hits a physical shelf at Walmart, it is suddenly sitting shoulder to shoulder with 5 aggressive competitors.
Oh, it's a literal side-by-side cage match playing out millions of times a day.
Exactly. And if the retailer's data portal shows that foot traffic in your aisle is incredibly high, but your sell-through rate is abysmal, it tells you something digital data never could.
That your physical packaging is failing in the real world.
Yes. Maybe your box color blends into the competitor's box right next to it. Maybe the font is too small to read from 3 feet away when someone's pushing a cart.
Oh, wow.
Brands use this macro data to rapidly redesign their physical presence. That's something they would never know to do if they only looked at website clicks.
That is a fascinating distinction. You are testing your product against the real world, not just a curated, isolated digital environment.
It also provides indisputable data on price sensitivity.
Okay, how does that work?
If your product is sitting on a shelf and the brand to your left runs an in-store promotion dropping their price by $2, you can watch in the retailer's beta portal as your sales immediately halt.
Oh, man. Brutal, but helpful.
Very helpful. You can measure exactly how price elastic your customer base is in real time. It allows you to dynamically adjust your own pricing and promotional strategies to outsmart the competition. It takes all the guesswork out of product evolution.
So what does this all mean for you? Whether you're prepping for a major strategy meeting, designing a new product in your garage, or just someone who enjoys understanding the hidden machinery of modern business.
The major takeaway here is undeniable.
Yeah, big box retail is far from the dinosaur it's often made out to be. It is a highly sophisticated, highly scalable growth engine.
It just requires a profound shift in perspective. You have to stop viewing the retailer as an adversary or just some middleman stealing your margin.
Right.
You are strategically deploying the resources of a corporate titan, their logistics network, their marketing platforms, their built-in trust, and their data collection to elevate your own standing in the market.
You are trading a slice of control for a massive multiplier on your growth. Increased brand awareness, higher sales volumes through manufacturing leverage, and access to invaluable macro shopper data.
It's a huge trade-off, but usually a smart one.
It really brings it all back to that indie band analogy. You can absolutely make a living playing the local clubs. But if you want to become a household name, you eventually have to get on the stadium stage, let the venue handle the ticketing, and perform for the masses.
It is the definitive threshold between a niche success story and enduring market dominance.
Well said. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a slightly provocative thought to mull over, building on everything we've just unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
Let's say you do everything right. You tap into this massive retail machine, you optimize your manufacturing, and you experience that explosive stadium-level growth.
The dream scenario.
Right. But what happens to a brand's independence when suddenly 70 or 80% of their entire total revenue is tied to one single big box giant?
Oh, that's the danger zone.
At what point does that helpful retail partner hold so much leverage over your survival that they quietly stop being your partner and start becoming your boss?
It is the ultimate tightrope walk of scale. Once you plug into the machine, managing that immense concentration of risk is the next great challenge for any brand that makes it to the big leagues.
It's a high-stakes game of leverage, without a doubt. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. Keep questioning the conventional wisdom, keep looking at the mechanics behind the curtain, and we will catch you next time as we continue exploring the strategies that shape our world.